Hey, hey.
Chris, quick question. This K. Mitchell. Did you ever get a representative from MPUH?
With the roster, I think that there was one person, but I didn't get nobody officially. You don't think you and the people you invited was someone that came. We didn't get nobody. We don't have nobody down officially. And I know y'all just had elections, or having elections. Y'all ain't already had them.
Yeah, we had elections November. Or either the 1st of December. I'm still working on it for you.
Okay. So yeah, as the election just happened, so it's like we can go back in at the top of the year at our next meeting, just really go full hard. So, you know what I mean? Make sure that everybody got representation. Since there has been now new elections, and you tap into all the people who are new chairs and new vice chairs and all those new roles.
Okay.
Welcome.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, welcome. If all y'all good people who just came in, if you mind just putting what APU you're from in the chat. So it'll be a little bit easy for me to record it. Terry, do you have the date of the next APAB advisory board meeting?
Okay, I didn't hear you, Chris.
I was saying, do you know the date of the next APAB meeting?
It's third Saturday. I think that's the 21st.
Let me see. The 16th?
No, the 19th.
Oh,
yeah, the 19th.
On a Saturday, the 19th is on a Tuesday. They got on here, yeah, it's got the pre-end. It's on the 16th, 2021.
No, December.
Oh, that's right. I done missed. I'm in January. My bad. I'm sorry about that. Yes, 19th. It is 19th. December 19th. December 19th. A couple more minutes. See me a couple more people in here. Not gonna make this too long. All right, I'm not gonna hold up. Go ahead and get started so that we can, for the sake of time. I just want to go ahead and start this meeting. As more people come and check in, we'll get the information and check in. But I want to start off by welcoming you to the December 10th public safety meeting from the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board. I think most of you guys have checked in the chat. Let me see. So start this here. So we got NPUT. Welcome, Terry. We got K from NPUH. We got Chase Vision, Sandy Springs. Welcome, Latoya from Westview. Write this down there. So as we get started, I want to also encourage everybody to get their community members, neighbors, and friends to get involved. Public safety has been a hot topic in the city of Atlanta. And as we go through the various interests of public safety, from community policing to some of the things that have happened during the Atlanta protests, all the way down to the water boy ordeal that we're trying to solve here in the city of Atlanta. These are all hot topics in the city of Atlanta, among other things that you may have that you want to actually address and provide some type of remedy to. The next advisory board meeting will be December 19th. That's on a Saturday at 10 o'clock. We got Mr. Terry Ross on the line, who actually has the committee on, committee on council, committee on APAB. and that starts at 9 a.m. So for all those people who kind of want to get caught up on what's going on in that subcommittee, definitely that's the time to join. And for most of y'all, hopefully that you can go to the website at safeatlanta.org or put your email into the chat because we want to make sure that we're emailing everybody. There are various ways that we're trying to improve communication, not only in APAB but and within NPUs, but just how we communicate and the best platforms in which that we can communicate with everybody. We're now streaming across Facebook and YouTube Live. We're looking to add the Periscope and Instagram as well as we look to attract more millennials, more younger people to want to get involved with the community and also to be reflected as one of the stakeholders that's in the community. So as we go across different issues, we don't want to omit different people who may have a perspective or opinion or position or issue. So we want to make sure that you encourage all your people, friends, peers to get involved. Welcome. So I want to go into the first piece that we always start off with, and as we just started this public safety committee, we've looked at the structure, and here's a diagram of what I've kind of put together on how we can best serve as a committee to APAB to help best serve our NPUs. And so if you look at the top of the diagram, it shows you from the mayor's office to the city council, and it shows you the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board. And here you see below it, I'm not sharing the screen, sorry. Let me share the screen. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yep, so here is what we're planning. So right here at the top, you see city council, and then you see APAB. And right up below it, you see that there's a public safety committee. That's where we are now. And in this body, we look to take on issues around public safety and policy around public safety. And so to do that, you know, we have a talent pool of a lot of people that's in our community, being that, you know, most of our professionals and people that even serve and work for the city of Atlanta and other municipalities often stay in our communities. And so we also have people that do business in our communities. And so we're creating a public safety advisory board. So as we talk about public safety, we just appointed a person out of the community to the ACRB who actually has taken, that's what they do. And so utilizing good talent pools out of our communities will help us create better policy, better solutions, and better communication around public safety. If you go below that, you'll see that there's a public safety subcommittee. And because this work is so heavy sometimes, and different NPUs have different participation levels and capacities to which they serve the constituents in the respective NPU, some are challenged and some are better serving. So we want to be able to learn from our neighbors. And personally, I don't believe in the lines in the districts because it's all about community. And oftentimes that if you're in an NPU, so for instance, I'm an NPU S and Terry's an NPU T, depending on the proximity, some of the same issues that happen in my NPU would affect this NPU as well. And so we're really heavy on the subcommittee because the committee is where all the work gets done. So we created the public safety subcommittee, and we modeled it similar to the ACRB, which basically has a cluster or a mix or a number of they have a number of NPUs represented. Everybody call it. Okay, they have a number of NPUs represented. So in this subcommittee, to be able to best serve those NPUs, we want to basically create more like a subgroup in the subcommittee. So if you see right in the diagram, Representative 1. So we want to be able to take somebody from NPU G, J, K, L, and T, and in this body, elect somebody to be a representative for that subcommittee. And once it's 5 subcommittees, and once we have that group of, or that body, we want to help do and push down this work. So some of the work that's coming out of this committee will help interface actually down at the NPU level. So we will be able to really support communities. And if you look to the left of that, you see the APD Advisory Council. We actually have a model of the Advisory Council because NPUT and Zone 1 actually have a working relationship to which how they communicate and how they meet outside of the NPU. And so even understand, before I even knew it and understanding it, and as we called around and was getting input, we added that to the model. So as you see to the right, all the 1, the 2, the 3, 4, and 5, each one of those representatives actually is correlating to a APD zone. So representative 1 is actually would be a representative out of that NPU, but actually for the APD zone 1 command. And so that's the model that we're looking to do as you look below Atlanta 25 NPUs, and you see by de facto, I just kind of included 4 people that we need to make sure that we always communicate, or that's always a part of this, you know what I mean, which is the NPU chair, the NPU public safety chair, the APAB delegate, and the alternate. And we basically do that because, as we know, to be elected to a part of this body to represent, normally you're a delegate or alternate, and so by default, those people are already a part of APAB. And so where information comes out of this committee back up to APAB, there will be, you know what I mean, conversation and dialogue to which your NPU representative, either your delegate or your alternate, will vote on some of these items that come out of this committee. So that just kind of gives us full connectivity. If you look to the further left, you know, as we do this work as well, and coming up with recommendations, we also have the Atlanta Citizen Review Board, and probably one of the better, if not saying the best, or one of the only places to have a citizen review board, especially that's actually attached to the charter, and now having an investigator and having more progressive add-ons to do some of this public safety work. So I look to Atlanta to kind of leading the charge on this public safety and criminal justice reform as we move this stuff forward. Before I go further, is there any comments or questions about some of the things that we went over and input and suggestions around the makeup of this committee? Hearing none, I'll move forward. One of the big topics that we've talked about that came out of this group was the eviction resolution. Let me pull this up for you guys. Share screen. Trying to share the screen here. But in this resolution, it actually came out of the committee on APAB. We was looking to address a lot of the issues around evictions. As we know, we've been in COVID-19 since March, and there's been a lot of laws and things that have been implemented, or executive orders that have been implemented over COVID. And one of those was the moratorium that was first introduced here in the city of Atlanta, and then it came one for the federal government. But we've known and found that, you know, during this pandemic, there have been a lot of people that have been displaced during the whole tenure of this COVID pandemic. And we're trying to find a way to resolve people being displaced. On December the 31st, the moratorium for the city of Atlanta will end. Traditionally, we've had extensions for up to 60 days from the mayor, but the federal moratorium that will end December 31st as well, I'm not sure if it will actually be renewed, but they've already given green light for municipalities across the country to go ahead and start the eviction process. And because of this, we have to find a way to address not only just the evictions, but affordable housing and homelessness. This has been one of the biggest issues across the city that we've been working on and talking about. And in this resolution, we talked about one, what could we do? And given how we position, it's not a whole lot that we could do, as there's been the money allocated for evictions, and there's been funds created for people to apply for assistance. What we're finding is that there are people that's applying, but there's not as many from the city of Atlanta, meaning city of Atlanta residents. There have been more as of last month. There was more people that was applying from the surrounding jurisdictions. And so we know that we need to create better connectivity among our communities. So what we're asking is that the city council and the mayor allocate funds from the government to help us create a communication plan, or to help us find the gaps. And because this work is so heavy and most of us volunteer doing this work on top of our 9-to-5 jobs, on top of taking care of kids, on top of other side things that we may be doing, plus the impact of COVID, we don't necessarily have the resources to do this work. We have the mindset, we have the know-how, we know some of the problems. And so now we're trying to be a part of the solution. So as we become a part of the solution, we're asking council and the mayor to just kind of look at, at APAB, which is the group that's responsible for community engagement, which is also outlined in most of the funds that we get to kind of fund our efforts. We get grants and stuff from the city of Atlanta that we can do various things with. But as we talk about COVID and these things that's going on with COVID and evictions, we have to kind of pull ourselves up by these bootstraps. Lack of federal policy and oversight that kind of give us full direction at the local level. We're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. I think the mayor and the council have done the best they can to putting out policy to mitigate not only this pandemic, but crime and public safety issues as well. Like I say again, most of us know a lot of the issues that's going on in our community. This is a platform that's here to kind of come together to come up with some of those solutions. Go ahead, Terry.
No, I was just going to ask Chris, any idea how much money we're talking about and what the relief would look like?
So one reason I came back to this body, because we talked about in our last meeting, we had Dexter and Michael Woodard and various others that came up with great ideas. And so in some of these great ideas, looking at how to come up with a plan, and it's partially my fault because I didn't know that. I knew there was going to have to be a budget, but it's more so now digging deeper down to being able to look at exactly what we're going to do. So what I've been looking at and working with some of the MPU chairs, and I got information on the grant program, is taking some of the things between printing and the various ways that we've noted that we communicate with one another. Various MPUs do different things. Like we learned that some MPUs do robocalls. Some MPUs have yard signs. Some MPUs have posters and put things in places where people frequent. So what we're trying to do as we develop this is to look at a best practice and to encompass these things and strategies that we've heard in this committee to do something across the city and to help support these MPUs more direct. So I have these pieces and I have some numbers. And so tonight, as we talk about these things, I want to make sure that I take and capture all those line items, and I'll fix a budget to it, because I haven't, like with printing, are we going to do yard signs? Are we going to do flyers? Are we going to do radio ads? Like we look at ACRB, they do things like commercials and other things. And so that's what I want to talk about today as we talk about communication and how we engage from this public safety committee to develop a budget or at least a framework so that we can itemize and look at how much that we're going to ask the city to fund and for what efforts, and how can we take those efforts to get outcome. And so we've set that framework up. And so I just want to have a discussion with those who are here to get your feedback on some of the ideas around how your MPU communicate, or some of the things that you would like to see happen that can be improved not only in your MPU, but from APAB, because this body is the group that kind of supports the MPUs. So that's what I want to talk about as we talk about this framework and this eviction piece. I want to make sure that I capture this stuff so that we can turn in a budget that will be itemized, and we'll publish it and put the outcomes on what we're trying to obtain. But I will read the resolution part from the actual resolution. It says, "Be there resolved that the mayor of the city of Atlanta and or the city council are hereby requested by the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board to allocate funds in the FY 2021 budget to enable APAB and the city's 25 MPUs to plan and implement communication platforms that will increase housing stability and to help protect public health as displaced residents and homelessness increase the likelihood of individuals moving into close quarters in congregate settings such as homeless shelters, which then puts individuals at higher risk to COVID-19. And be it further resolved that the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board, via the use of allocated funds, shall lead discussion-based exercises as a first step to help identify gaps in policies, protocols, processes, plans, procedures, and opportunities as included in the CDC guidelines for planning for pandemic mitigation interventions. and the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board shall create a participatory engagement process with the community that supports the goals and strategy as outlined in the community mitigation guidelines to mitigate and limit the spread of a pandemic, mitigate disease, suffering, and death, and sustain infrastructure and lessen the impact to the economy and the functioning of society. So ultimately, we're looking to create this participatory engagement process. And that's why I made sure I went over the framework of at least this committee and how we know that public safety is a form of public health. And we know that the kids that is in school, I think one of the big topics in education is about the return to school in person. So as we have these conversations as a community, we need to look at how do we spread the word? How do we connect better as a community? What are some of the suggestions of things that we can do to get buy-in from the community? One example being that we were looking at gas stations and convenience stores and places that's in our communities. These are places where people frequent at high volumes. But is there COVID cleanliness? What type of COVID compliant practices are we doing in terms of masks and social distancing and even COVID cleaning? So we need to start looking at this as we see the numbers across Atlanta and across the country increase. Because the worst fear that I can see happening is that we go into a lockdown phase, and not because we just elected a new president, it's because we fail to plan and implement strategies and policies that connect with our communities. We're losing a lot of loved ones. There's a lot of death that is happening, and a lot which is COVID related or underlying condition related. So I wanted to make sure that we talked about this, that we talked about how to make better connectivity to our communities, how can we start here and start to spread their word and organize and get more people part of this community and a part of APAB and a part of NPUs. As I was telling Kate earlier, I knew that this would be a job, but I knew that in November that we would be electing new chairs and new executive staff, and there'd be some new people circulating. And as that happened, that was our opportunity to now organize and make sure that we have public safety representatives from every NPU. And so that that we started to adopt this process that we started engaging to start mitigating. So this is why I want to open the floor up for dialogue, because if we don't have input, then who will? This is the body that's actually responsible for that input. As we know, there should be many more people, but this is, we're doing outlines and guidelines with minimal resources, but we will be successful because we have dedicated people like yourself that, they come over time and time again in the community, working in the community and taking time out like tonight to come be a part of this process. So I'm gonna open up the floor just for comments, suggestions, and whatever you feel is on your heart that's related to making sure that we come up and be successful with this plan, and so that we can quantify, add on to this budget and capture what you want to see.
Chris, if I might offer some input here, the solution has to be a sustainable one, both for the tenants facing eviction, as well as some relief for the landlords who are not receiving rent. I mean, because both sides are suffering at this point. So now with what you're talking about, let's say, for instance, I haven't paid my rent in 2 months. December 31st, the moratorium is up and my landlord files to have me evicted. If I come to this committee or if I come to the MPUT Public Safety Committee, what kind of relief am I looking at?
So from public safety,
in January.
So in public safety, what we're trying to do, and this is APAB and as NPUs in general, like if you go to the website, you'll see, where United Way and Urban League and a lot of other civic organizations or nonprofits have been providing assistance. What we want to do in this plan is taking this framework and the resources that will be allocated. So the money that's allocated is paying for flyers. It may give you a listing of resources in your community or in your area. Making sure that we have the resources to actually get it to the end users, and knowing that, first of all, they should be able to come to the NPU for starts. Like you say, to come to the NPU, Terry, you're part of NPUT, you may even be one that's affected. And I think that what we found is that once we brought this issue up, more people start to realize that when people are affected in their community. But this is where the money would now say, Terry, because it came through the NPU, you're now knowing how to get assistance. The money that's available already by default helps both parties. because if they're paying the rent, that means the person who's in the arrears, one of the applications, because I went through a couple processes with a couple providers. One provider, I think it was United Way, I do believe it was $5,000. So what you had to do was go in and apply for it and list your landlord's information. And after they contact the landlord, and they basically, here is 2 months in arrears. Your rent was $1,300 a month, so ultimately you're $2,600 behind. They're going to negotiate the payment for that $2,600. I think it's up to $5,000. And when they make the payment for that payment, they just ask the landlord that they don't put you out for at least 30 days. So if there was a file for eviction, that in agreement with making that payment and bringing you current, that they agree not to put you out for at least 30 days. And so also adding counseling and financial counseling and connectivity to jobs and wraparound services. This is where we start to bring more of the services and things that's available to the community. So as we talk about, and as I was talking to some of the people in APD, as they are a government agency, this is also a great opportunity for us to look at how we do community policing. Looking at how, we have a division of officers that's also here to help serve in a capacity where it's community-based. And looking at also, as we talked about pre-arrest diversion, the same piece. So as we have different points of contact with people, different people that come through this system, and even the criminal justice reform system, some of those crimes and recidivism rate is because of some of the underlying conditions. So maybe if we're starting to solve some of these problems and make better connectivity and better utilization of some of these services that we have reached to, then we look to have, a better and safer city, and at least be able to evaluate on how we mitigate a lot of these issues, and definitely as it relates to evictions. It bought you some time, and hopefully we take Terry and analyze your situation or get some feedback from you on how we can better help Terry or the individual. I don't know if they answered it for you, Terry, in long, but
it did. So yeah, we go to the MPU for the list of resources and support that's available, whether you're a tenant or a landlord, correct?
Yeah. And so, that's the purpose of the subcommittee. So as we sit in this meeting, and as we take it on, we try to get this work to the subcommittee. Go ahead, Kay.
Hey, Chris, you were saying that the MPUs have that information available in the resources?
Some may and some may not, but we're going to make sure from our end, and that's what we're saying. We're identifying the communication platform, the connectivity, the gaps, the holes. That's what a group out of this group is going to make sure that we do. So as we quantify this budget and we put this budget in place and what that looks like, we're going to look at how we best serve our communities based on the feedback that we get from people in the MPU. So Kay, you're in MPU H. So it's like, okay, Kay, and we did some of this before with some of the other people, but we will continue to do this and then actually do a subcommittee meeting just focused on evictions or just focused on certain issues that are big issue items that affect evictions and things around it, such as homelessness and affordable housing and any other wraparound services or utility assistance that we can find to help support our communities. That's some of the things that I've seen in K, you could probably attest. That's why I was over in H, making sure that y'all guys had food over there. Just try to make sure that things are sustainable over a period of time and that we have to be community to be more resourceful with our resources. So it's the same piece, K, but just kind of more in a more organized, coordinated fashion to make sure if you don't have it, that we can start sharing information with people and just looking at what we got going on.
Gotcha. Okay.
Chris, a couple of things. As you were talking, I was just kind of brainstorming on my own over here. And even though the resources are there, to your point, a lot of people do not know that the resources are available. Just coming out of the MPUT meeting we had earlier this week, it was a United Way representative, I think a Atlanta Beltline representative. They were pretty much saying we're begging to give away money at this point because no one knows about these programs. So one thing I know that we said, making sure we get the resources out to the MPUTs and the various neighborhoods within it. But I would suggest that for those websites, for example, I live in Westview, we have a website, but COVID-19 relief is not on our website. Same thing with MPUs. Like if we have the resources, we have to make sure that we as individual neighborhoods utilize, I don't want to say what's free, because let's be honest, even though yes, we get these grants, like you said, we have to be conservative with it because, you know, all small governments and local governments are strapped for cash to a certain degree. So we got resources available, but we're not utilizing them the way we should. So whether it's, you know, your community website, where's your social media accounts, and making sure that we always continue to have such things like COVID-19 top of mind and make sure we share those resources. And even if it's a flyer that, you know, you send out to your community that they can also then share on their social media pages, that we should be doing would be helpful in terms of utilizing the resources as more efficiently as possible without having to always print.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right.
And then another thing I was thinking about in terms of printing flyers, what I've noticed, and just as a citizen, just my whole life, and you look at the election, for example, people are so quick to put their flyers on roads. But as we're driving by, no one's paying attention to the sign on the road because you can't, you know, you're driving. I think it's crucial that we partner with businesses within our community. Like you said, whether it's a frequent spot, or if it's a hot spot. For example, Slutty Vegan is a big hot spot here in Westview. We need to make sure that we're partnering with these businesses so they can also help us get that word out for whatever the issue is, not just COVID-19, but anything. And those flyers or mailers or anything that we're printing that's physically costing money is getting the biggest bang for our buck because we're in those high trafficked areas. And if we're partnering with those businesses in such a way that we're doing that, then I think that we will see the return that we're looking for to ensure that people aren't getting evicted or people are able to, you know, pay the bills through the various programs that we offer. So that's another thing as well, like not just utilizing the print and just putting them out there in the neighborhood, just make sure they are strategically placed so that, again, we're getting the biggest bang for our buck.
No, I totally agree. So what I went to right here, this is a website for this committee. And so fortunately that I'm able, but unfortunately that, you know, I pay for this out of my pocket. And I have no problem doing it because I really believe in the work that we do in this community. And so just to your point, it's very well needed. Well, I will spend even more, I spend a lot of time trying to get the word out, but I need you guys' help to continue the same work. And it's not that we're being paid to do it, we're just being resourceful to our outcomes. And so the URL for the site is safeatlanta.org. As you look here on the page and you go down, it talks about the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board. It talks about our Facebook page. It talks about that structure that we talked about, and just trying to update people on what we're trying to do. I knew that we wouldn't just come in and just slam and just save the world, but I knew that we needed to get started. And so part of the heavy lift in what we're doing is already starting to happen. As we get people participating in this committee, and I can't, you know what I mean, I don't look at what everybody else do, but I try to be innovative in how we do it and taking the information that I get from people and actually put it into some form of a plan and actually put it somewhere where we can actually see it and where you can see that growth. And so here you see that piece about the structure. You see here, there's the flyer that we were circulating around. They talked about Zoom, they talked about the website, they talked about Facebook Live and YouTube Live. You got the phone piece for those people maybe to call in on the phone. So hopefully that once you go out and you get into the MPUs, that you're texting this flyer, that you're reposting this flyer, that you're sharing this flyer with neighbors and everybody else. And so you can make it so easy to where when you come here and you're looking at the flyer, you can join right from the website. So I think COVID has allowed for us to be more innovative, to have better participation, even in our MPUs. But we have to make sure that we're capturing everybody and getting their input and their feedback and speaking for people who may not be all online or on social media, or people who may not, you know what I mean, they may be confined to their homes. And so we have to make sure so at MPUS, We have a wellness program, and we have things that we do with the senior population. Like that's a big piece for our community. And so we kind of make sure that we capture those people wellness checks, just calling once a week to say, are you okay? We got to start doing these things before we get on the lockdown, before people start panicking. I think the level of anxiety and just people being frustrated for being confined and not being at their norm is at an all-time high. That also leads down to mental conditions, domestic violence. So we'll see the rate of crime. We're starting to see a lot of things happening in our communities. This is a result of this pandemic and us having proper planning to kind of look at how we address these things that's in our community. As we go down and you see, here's where the resolution was posted. So sometimes we might not get a chance to go to everybody, but if we're promoting a place where people can go, there you'll see the flyer. That's the flyer for United Way. So this can be better. This is just doing what I can with what I got with the amount of time that we have. But I know together, coming together, using our minds, being creative, and just wanting to do more that we can. You send information that you want to see posted. This, like I said again, you guys are directly tied to your community. I try to make it simple where people just go straight to it. What's going on lately? So instead of going through all these pieces that resulted from all these pieces of legislation, I want to get the hot topics, things that affect public safety for one, but you can find it right here. So when you see the eviction moratorium, so it's not just listening to people, it's actually going here, downloading it, and looking at it. You never have to leave anything. So that's what we're trying to do across the city to create this platform and infrastructure. I'm a believer that it's not, the infrastructure is broken, but it's not broken so much to where we have to make all these big changes that I see some of us making. And this will help us plug some of these holes and come up with best practices and look at some of the good things and some of the things that other people have done and may have not been so good. You know, I mean, we've all made decisions in our communities or in our MPUs that work for a minute, but it don't really work or fit right now. So that's why we change our bylaws from time to time. This is an opportunity for us to actually get it right while there's additional funding or was additional funding provided for COVID relief. So this money was provided from the federal government for us to be able to do this work. We just have to do the work. So this is how we got here. And I want to spend the rest of this time just trying to talk about more specifics. What are some best practices? If it's flyers, is it yard signs, or like the postal conversation came out, I think might have came out of Westview. I think you guys started posting posters in the stores over there. And so we got that down. So let's talk about what that looks like or some things that people, each one of you guys that's in here would like to see. Go ahead, Kay.
Chris, is it possible that we could explore all the options? Because say, for example, in MPUH, a lot of my neighbors are seniors. They're 65 and over. So they're not really into the social media movement. They're not really into getting onto websites. But if there's a sign or anything that they see out and post it with a number on there and what it's about, they'll call. Mm-hmm. So is it a possibility that we can look to see what basically what our demographics are in the community and see what will be most efficient or most effective in those areas?
And the answer to that is yes. It's just for what we're doing now. And that's part of how I struggle. And I call Terry for advice often. And I call him today. It's like, because I see where we're going. I know how to get there. But with this resolution, that we have to attach the budget to it. And so what we have to do, and I'm going to finish doing. So I already got the printing. I already got the printing of the flyers, partnering with the business. What does that mean? Being able to leave flyers and posters in there. It's like I looked at the grant program that goes to the MPUs. And I said, well, if I had to quantify a budget, if I just want to do a budget, just at minimum, they say, how much you need? How would you approach it in a way that if we had looked line item by line item, that we can probably capture something that's not far-fetched? I think that we sometimes get sometimes scared about something we never did before. And so I don't want people to think that we're doing something more than what we're doing, but people feeling comfortable with what we're doing. So I looked at the grant program to where I think we got, is it $3,000 or $2,000 from the city? But just looking at what could $2,000 do for NPU? If I just looked at it in that manner, and we know some NPUs will be better, some won't be, you know. So I may need a little help, but if I had to come out with a piece where this money coming from APAB, how can we do and get an uptick in our engagement from APAB down to the NPUs? So where NPUs have done this work and is doing this work, can we allocate, let's say if it's 25 NPUs and we said $2,000, that means that's a $50,000 budget, right? And part of the thinking before I called Terry and going ahead and do the line item piece was that if we made where we can do something similar like the grant program that's administered to the city, it's totally got the same focus of what we're putting in for, which is communication, mitigation for this pandemic, whatever is identified that you put in for that identification of what you're doing, knowing that we had $2,000 allocated for a budget, but we're gonna give $1,000 for the NPUs to be able to supply and to actually be able to help. And we want to help. That's why I use the subcommittee model where you have multiple NPUs. So if I looked at that model, let me go back here. If we looked at that model, what would that look like? How would that be quantified? So where you only have 1,000, but if I had 4 NPUs together, that's now 4,000. Now we have a bigger spread of what we can cover, and now we can also share the same resources. So this is about creating a sustainable model that can be quantified and has its outcome driven. And as we do, and it's just coming from a budget standpoint. So those are some of the numbers I'm even running tonight as we had this conversation. Because yes, like you just said, Kate, I'm looking at how do we do it all. But even some of the places that were that was doing like robocalls, those robocalls were coming from the council members, so it didn't come out the NPU grant budget. And so we know that money is very small, but you allocate that piece. But now you will have to be able to replenish money if you decided that you want to use out your $1,000 that you wanted to do robocalls. But you can go to APAB and your representative, and that's that connectivity engagement piece. This is money allocated across APAB for a particular, it's earmarked for a particular piece, which also include communication, but you're deciding how you spend it. Go ahead, Kate.
Chris, so how much does it cost for the robocalls? Like, do you have an estimate of?
So I had invited a couple of council members. I know particularly one had a meeting and said they would probably try to jump in late, but okay. If they don't jump in, that's one question I'm gonna call directly to a couple of them tonight to ask them and look up some other services that we had started looking up about robocalls, about how does that range, what does that look like, how many do you get for that amount, so that we start identifying vendors. The same way we do in the NPU on how we identify vendors and looking at 3 vendors or 3 different companies that do the same thing, and what's the average amount, and then reaching out and trying to see the information. But I can actually log that information tonight and come up with a budget. So for robocalls, we're looking at if each NPU had 5,000, I don't know how it's structured, but 5,000, they want to execute a month. Then we know that if we multiply that times the rest of the fiscal year, you know what I mean, before the next month, the next fiscal year comes, which is about 5 to 6 months from now, how would that help us over 5 to 6 months to allocate robocalls to NPUs across the city? You may say I don't want to use it on robocalls because you may be one of those places that already get robocalls, but you want to use it on posters. It's just extra money. It's money that's allotted for you to better create, and we're helping guide that conversation. We're not just leaving it up to the NPUs. We're bringing this committee of various NPUs to have dialogue and conversation. And just like we're having this conversation, we also, the same people that's on this phone can go out here and, Kay, you know, I'm not in H, but I come over and help in H. It don't matter where you at in the city, you know. If we got resources, we got boots on the ground, we got people that's available, we come in to help each other. And that's how we got.
That's right.
So that's the strategy. That's the strategy to how we approach this. You know, I know it hasn't been seen, and we haven't seen this happen, but our lives depend on it. Your lives, your kids' lives, your parent lives. You know, we don't have a choice. You know what I mean? We don't have the luxury of being able to wait too much longer, because you just never know when it might be you. And that's been the downfall of this pandemic, is that, you know, you're good today, tomorrow and shit today, you develop a cough. And you know what I mean? The sad part about it is that I know people who have recovered, but I know people who haven't recovered. I know people who were affected in such a way that, you know, they're no longer here. And so I just want to make sure that we look at the urgency and the severeness in this work that we're doing. And I just want to make sure that it could be you. We just don't know. So I want you guys to keep thinking about it. I've jotted out a lot of things and notes that you gave here and that people gave previous over the last couple of meetings that we've had. And I'm gonna make sure that we quantify it, but it's gonna be in such a way that we look at it and how we scale. We just gotta make it over 5 months. And we wanna show the city that we're responsible agents of doing this work. We're some of the best people to do this work. We can increase money, you know what I mean, by showing this work over the next 5 to 6 months that, you know what I mean, we make it, because from what I heard, just in calling around and talking to people, that even the grants used to be $10,000 once upon a time. And then they brought it down. So as we talk about this pandemic, this is just a start of having conversation and dialogue, being the change that we want to see, supporting and being a community, and being that Atlanta that we know how to be. Go ahead, Toya.
Chris, a random question. And to your point about, you know, budget shrinking, has the city or anybody from APAB considered utilizing ATL 311 as a source for COVID-19? Like, we can go there and report flooding. We can go there and talk about illegal dumping. I would think, I'm not a tech person, I won't say that I am, but I would think it'll be simple to add a drop down for COVID-19 relief to add to that app or to that website for those that are tech savvy. And for people that aren't, they have, you know, a standard number that you can call as well to add for as a resource, just in case budgets are tight and we don't get the grant, you know, across the MPUs like we would want.
Mm-hmm. So we've had conversation around 311. So in partnering with the pre-arrest diversion, which is also part of this public safety conversation, they're actually doing a add-on for that and for non-emergency numbers or non-emergency access. So we're spot on, you're spot on for what you're saying, and that's what we want to see happen. We want to see that marketplace, that digital marketplace, where we can go, that one-stop shop, that we can go search, you know what I mean, right there, that we can either report things, look for information, apply for things, just full functionality, and the opportunity is now. So we're having those conversations. As we come back for the new year, we're definitely going to have more functioning subcommittees based out of these groups, based on some of the stuff that we're talking about. We need some of you guys to lead some of that work, even if it's just from an interim base, because, and like I said, that's why I want to make sure I came back here, because in our last meeting, none of the people on here tonight, but Michael and Dexter, they talked about, and they agreed to be a part of, to be from the first members of this group for the homelessness piece. And they came up with stuff like the shelters, how to identify shelters and programs and housing. How do we do that? Where do we do that? Where does the opportunities exist? One creative thing somebody came up with was lockers. They saw a vision of homelessness and having lockers downtown. It's just things that we come up, not saying they're far-fetched, but let's come up with what they look like. Let's do the work that we know, and not, you know, I mean, we always often call them the city, but most of those people that work for the city, other than the resources, some of the talent pool is right here among the community. A lot of those folks stay right here in the community. So let's bring the conversation into the community so that we can now create and solidify this pipeline from the community to council, and that we're being good stewards of the work. We're having real outcome, and we just need to make policy and accept some of the things that's going to make us better. Anything else from anybody? Because this is the weight of this meeting. So it's 6:53. We try to hold to an hour. We're not confined to it. As I said, 90 minutes. But as we had this conversation, I definitely want to make sure that we pull the weight off of this, because we're going to make and quantify this tonight and put it in there, and know that all 25 MPUs are being considered in how we ask for this money and what we plan to do with it. Because as we itemize it, we have to talk about what we're going to do with it, and we're going to talk about the outcome that we get from it.
Yeah, this is Chase. Can I say something?
Sure.
Cool. So just really quick, I'm pretty new to Atlanta, but I did a lot of community organizing work in California. So I just like to be involved anywhere I go. So 3 suggestions that I have is one is we understand that people do utilize public transportation, so MARTA, right? So we see like the buses and the trains, they do advertisement for movies and things of that nature. I think it'll be a great idea if we could also have them to also advertise, the COVID information, on the bus stops, on the trains, etc., so that people can actually see that. 2 would be us just tapping into um, property management companies, right? So property management companies, they're managing tens, 70, 100 properties. And if it's a way that they could actually put up a tab or just something where it says like COVID relief, people are going to always utilize that portal or that website so that they can pay their bills. So they can actually see that and get a better understanding of what that is. And then if we could also encourage them to, leave flyers in the leasing office, I think that'll be great as well. And then the third one is recently, because I'm a YouTuber, and I've noticed that there's been like a lot of information around the Atlanta, Georgia election for the Senate, right? And so it's clear that that's tailored to Atlanta folks. So maybe we could also utilize a YouTube media strategy where we could put up like an advertisement around COVID, where at the end of the video or during the segment, people will see that 5-second advertisement just explaining like how people can be able to utilize those funds.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And that's that work that we're talking about as we make better connectivity in the community with utilizing these funds. And so you're absolutely right. Because it helps the property managers there as well. And so one good thing about it, these funds and these organizations and these funds or these one sheets that we create or these flyers and all this information that we're utilizing get to these places, there's benefit for those property owners or those landlords. So you're absolutely right. And I think they would actually appreciate and probably even help out more in, being involved in NPUs, and making better connectivity for those people who stay in those apartments to be a part of the NPUs. Because and that's the vision of it. The vision is having the NPUs be part of this marketplace for getting out this information. We know that the NPUs itself is normally just a meeting about, what's hot, what's not, the various departments that come in and get represented, and then the different agencies that are there. But it's so much relying on the committee work. This is a committee of a committee, ultimately. So there's a public safety committee in every NPU. So with the subcommittee, that's what they're focusing on. Creating the subcommittee actually helps drive down to help focus on making sure that public safety and this body is represented at the local level or the level within the NPU, so that we can have better connectivity, so that we can push down these resources, and we can also be the model for other committees to look at. And we can learn from other committees as well. A lot of you guys that's on here, like Terry, is a part of other committees. So they ultimately come on here and get information and kind of share that stuff among the committees and different organizations that they're part of. So you're absolutely right. And I got your stuff down, and it's going to be considered on how we do that. Build in terms of like the model transportation piece and public transportation. I know we do it because the ACRB, they follow the same model. They're at the bus stops. They're in the bus shelters. They're on. I've seen commercials. I've heard radio ads. So maybe we look at how to bring that into the fold for us as well. So I got that. Anybody else? Don't be shy. But I've captured that piece. I'm gonna go back to the agenda. We got about 2 minutes remaining. Let me go back here right quick. So as you all know, the website is safeatlanta.org. Make sure you visit it. Please go subscribe. just to subscribe, you automatically add it to the email. So because we want you guys to also participate and get the email, I don't know how many you got. How did many of you get the communication about this meeting?
I got it via the email.
Email. Anybody else?
I received it via text.
Okay. So email, text, maybe some social media now. So those are the things that we're trying to do various ways of communicating. But definitely go onto the website, safeatlanta.org. It's definitely one of the ways to get added to the email. And if you would, if you're in here, drop your email in the chat, or feel free to go to safeatlanta.org, but add yourself to the email so you get in the loop of the communication. Sometimes like today, I didn't have a lot of time to do a lot of text to a lot of people, but as we send it out to some of your guys who text and it's subcommittee work, we're going to create a communication committee. That's all they're focused on, is making sure that we communicate, and they'll probably be setting a lot of the model for this work that we're doing. Let me go back to share for the remaining couple minutes. So we got to the eviction resolution and the budget. We talked a little about COVID-19, mass social distancing, cleaning. The next piece I want to make sure that we leave off with is that we've partnered with the People Uprising Task Force, which I'm also a part of, and a lot of people in the NPU are a part of as well. We were looking to do a town hall out of this committee, but in partnering with them, they was looking to do a town hall as well. So they short notice, because what's happening right now, there's a lot of legislation and stuff that's going on. While COVID is going on, and while the elections are going on and Christmas time is going on, there's a lot of distractions, and a lot of people still have a lot of issues. And there's a consensus that there need to be a platform like this. This body should be bigger. So right now we're looking at trying to put on a town hall. It was originally scheduled for the 16th. The 16th is next week. So right after this meeting, that's why I'm not gonna hold everybody too long. Right after this meeting, we're going into another meeting to have a conversation about what that can look like. And because there's so many issues, I don't know how many of you guys have the Citizen app. I was turned on to the app called Citizen. And the Citizen app, it basically gives you different things that's going on, kind of similar to a lot of the other apps, but it's more public safety. It actually gives you some of the 911 calls. It's pretty good, but I've noticed that it go off sometimes, I mean, too many times for there to be so much stuff going on. And a lot of it is people being shot, car accidents, you know what I mean? It's just trying to get a capture of what public safety looks like in the city, not just from this side of town or that side of town, but an overall view of what's going on. So as we approach the December meeting, the January meeting, I'm going to look at this town hall and I'll have more information. So that's why I'm saying, please go to subscribe for the email updates, or drop your email in the chat, because we're going to send a lot of stuff out over the holidays via email. And we're looking at the communication plan on that. We're going to find some sponsors because this work is very important. I think everybody thinks that public safety is important, and it is, because public safety is about your life and it affects your quality of life. So with that being said, any feedback on the town hall before we get out of here? On what some things that you want to see, subject matter. There's a platform. Let me see if I have time to pull it up. Let me see. Because it's really dope on how it's laid out. Because it takes the feel of a meeting and it makes it feel just like a whole meeting. Like how we engage, sponsors, tables, the NPU. I thought I had it on my desktop. I don't. And for the sake of time, we have to talk about it. But please go subscribe, because we're going to send it out. If we're able to come up and it's end up being one of the platforms, you'll be able to subscribe to that. We'll definitely send it out via email. But as we talk about these issues, if there's anything in particular that people that's on the call now want to see happen or talk about as a part of this town hall, and I just go through just as a little icebreaker to talk about a lot of the topics that we've already got from previous conversations. It was about the Atlanta protests, police reform, use of force, community policing, a look ahead, the ACRB, pre-arrest diversion, 311, which is the non-emergency hotline, 911, So we learned that 911 actually has 30 vacant positions. I know a lot of people that is complaining about 911 and the answering service. They're getting sometimes for the call volume, when they call, they're getting the answering service. But just even understanding what to do when you get there. COVID-19, jail closure, APD, Zone Advisory Council, which we covered earlier, communications and community engagement. We talked about school police, truancy, social services, and juvenile services, fire rescue, code enforcement, legal administration, which includes the courts, policy and support programs, eviction and homelessness, and decriminalization. There was also a host of subcategories that, in terms of servicing, senior services, housing and job training, finance and small business, parent and youth services, social engagement and entertainment. And so these are just a number of things that captured in the meetings that we've had. So you may have heard some of the things that may interest you. You may have something more specific out of one of those categories. This is your time. We'll take 5 minutes. That put us 10 minutes over. We'll take the next 5 minutes to entertain subject matter around anything that you want to see with this town hall, or people we can invite or should include. Go ahead, Kay.
Chris, quick question. Can you add like some support in there for mental health? Because you mentioned about the statistics rising with domestic violence and child abuse and different things that could take place within the household, but I didn't hear anything in regards to that service being offered within the town hall, because I think that can, maybe with those services being provided, that can help as well in the realm of public safety.
No, you're absolutely right. So mental health and wraparound services, let me see. I'm gonna add that because so the last section of senior service and housing, job training, those are all categories. I'm trying to see. So just to go through that piece. So in senior services, it is health services and wellness checks, senior food servicing and grocery, financial assistance, and prescriptions. For housing and job training, we got evictions, homelessness, free online training, work from home jobs, and utility assistance. What we have up on the finance and small business, we have SBA loan, stimulus, grants, procurement opportunities, and PPP. So the finance piece was a big piece. As we know, a lot of people had a lot of questions or issues around whether it was the SBA loan or the stimulus or the grants. What was the difference? Just having more services being explained in the NPUs so that people actually understand and they got a place that they can go. And that's also a way that I think it was Chase that was on the phone was talking about organizing. As you know, that's a great organizing tool to use to get people to get involved in EPU. So you should see an uptick in how and what they look like. Parent and youth services was the food program, technology needs, tutoring and virtual engagement, government assistance programs, school services, summer programs, and for social engagement and entertainment. And so because we know, I think that part of why the city is got a hot spot is because people been locked in so much that, you know what I mean, when they come out, it's like I get out, I get a little taste of it, I want it, I need it, because of that mental health piece that we talked about, Kay, and just, you know what I mean, the stresses that we have going on. We got social engagement, entertainment. So we talk about how to get influencers and people that we look up to be a part of it and to be a part of our communication efforts. To not make it all about the work, but making it socially engaging. Activities, IG live events, give backs, etc. Outlets. So when we talked about the 311 conversation about 311, how do we take the service-oriented piece, and that's what we talked about that using that platform, but also to find out about different outlets, anywhere from wellness and workout. I know a lot of people that we have that provide services like John Lewis, and we got people that have wellness things that's going on the online platforms. How do we bring those platforms or those links onto maybe 311? And they may attract more people to actually utilize 311 because it's been there. How do we get better utilization out of 311? And so we will talk about that. Urban farming, voting and census, and different teen initiatives. So that's basically these 5 categories kind of brought up solution-based things on how we put issues and then come up with solutions, and how do we put it in buckets for solutions, and then how we engage to get those to the end user. Anybody else, anything else to add to it? Out of some of the things, I know it's a lot. We've compacted a lot into an hour, but we have to have this budget done. I just want to make sure I get the input from you guys on anything that, you know what I mean, there's no crazy idea. We want to consider all of it and then look at what would a budget look like around it and how can we utilize it across all the MPUs. Well, if we don't have anything, the only other piece is 7:09. We got 1 minute. The last items that we had that was on an agenda that was pulled out of this big array of things that we talked about that I just went through. Some of the hot topic things that was on there was criminal justice reform, more specifically community policing, use of force. They actually had a use of force session today in the public safety, or a work session. I didn't catch all of it, but they did have it, and I think the videos are still hosted online for those who want to go back and review it. And we will try to watch it and come back with some feedback on what happened in that meeting. Use of force, use of tear gas, and pre-arrest diversion. The other one that's up on the criminal justice reform, and the other two hot ticket items was the drag racing and the water boards. So hopefully, if you don't have any comments or things that you want to see around those hot items, specifically that we hadn't already captured, we'll take the next 60 seconds to go over that. Go ahead. I can't hear you. Yeah, unmute yourself.
Now, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, Lord have mercy. 2 minutes, just 1 second, please. Okay, my name is Maceo Fletcher, and I was on Citizens Review Board for 6 years, junior on the citizens side. And I'd like to ask, is there any type of teachings going to be going on here concerning different categories, dealing with the police misconduct and that sort of thing? I'm sorry.
No, you're good, Mr. Fletcher. What MPU are you with?
MPU V.
V. So, Mr. Fletcher, one thing we've been talking with APB about, and as we start to elect more people to this board, is that everybody going through that training. The APD goes. It's called the Explorer program, and so we're going to offer it to everybody that's a part of this committee. And that's one of the things I want to make sure that as we have more structure to this committee and people decide to get on board and take positions in the committee, that we all go through the Explorer program so that we know from top to bottom, from the time that we take that a person or cadet would apply, cadet to going through the academy, to training, to being a full-blown officer, so that we can have more things on top of the services, just outside of the police piece. We're looking for more training and opportunities for people in wellness, wraparound services, how to identify certain things. And so whatever we want to see happen, we definitely want to have those things within this committee, because we need solutions and places where, and safe places where people can come talk about their issue. It's solely focused about that issue. We've talked about a lot on here, but that's where that committee work come in, and these other teachings that you're talking about what happen.
Well, you can count me in, and if you want to, you can count me in on helping generate curriculum for particular studies. Okay.
Okay. Can you drop your email?
I don't see no chat down here or nothing. Is this a Zoom or what? What is this?
Yes, Zoom. How did you join? Zoom.
I don't know. We have probably Zoom.
It's okay. What's your email, Mr. Fletcher?
MACEO.
MACEO.
Fletcher, FLETCHER at yahoo.com.
Got you. So I'll make sure.
I'm also certified nationally also for police oversight, okay?
Definitely. So it sounds like you need to be on that group with Dexter and Mr. Woodard that they created. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add your name to that piece, and what I do is putting everybody together so we can have a conversation. Maybe we have a side Zoom one day for maybe 20, 30 minutes, do an introductory piece, and then we all have a conversation.
All right, my brother.
I appreciate you.
Go ahead.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Anybody got anything else? Being nothing, man. Y'all good people. If y'all need to reach me, of course, you can always go to the website and hit the contact. You know what I mean? Come straight to it's atlpublicsafety@gmail.com. Phone number I put in the chat, so don't feel free. I'm not gonna make you send me no email because you know what I mean. Some of this information is imperative that we get now, and that we start to move some of these issues. So the numbers in the chat, and given nothing else, y'all, this meeting is adjourned. We'll send out. Make sure you go subscribe, and we'll send out the budget that we come up with as they accept it. We'll send it out to everybody and let them know. And so then we'll have more conversation around what that budget looks like, because it's a forever conversation. So we'll take those lines and then we'll work whether we get approved for it or not. We may need more as we continue to talk about this conversation and what that looks like. So by the time they put it on an agenda with council, we may ask for $50,000, but then we may find that in our plan that we need 75. So then we'll appeal and ask them to amend, you know. But we're gonna continue to have the conversation and work on these solutions to fix a lot of these problems. And I really appreciate y'all ladies and gentlemen for coming on here to do this work.
Thanks, Chris. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Chris.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. What's up, brother? I see you just joining us. Now you probably had a lot of stuff going on. Keith. Yeah. I can't, you muted.
There we go. Now I said, I apologize for being late. I had a meeting with the schools, so it started at the same time as this one.
No, I got you. And there's a lot of meetings that be going on, so we was just wrapping up. It was a good meeting. I can call you on the sidebar and we can catch up. But it's no different. We're trying to put on this town hall. Well, we got the bigger of the weight of the two was the town hall and the eviction resolution. So, which is basically our communication plan on how we communicate to help mitigate this pandemic stuff and to address public safety issues and concerns that came out of that. And if you go to the website, you'll see the draft resolution. And so we're having to add a budget to that to kind of do this work. And you got to kind of hit with that because normally you think that you ask for an amount and then you can work with have time. But we're probably about 2 days late, but we have to attach that budget to the resolution. So we just took some last minute items that we had already talked about, took a lot of the information that we already had. I'm gonna massage it tonight, have some more conversations. We got another call after this one to massage it, what they look like, come up with it and submit it so they can get it submitted.
Yeah, I love how you're doing the structure. You know what I'm saying? Like you taking it from, the union days and you making sure that everything is, you know what I'm saying? Whoever cutting you too, bro, they did your line good. Like, for real, bro. Who your barber is over there, man?
Man, we got Nucci, man. He mowed on bank yet. So, let me see.
Yeah, you ain't like when I say he lined you up A1. But yeah, I check out the website, like you said, so I can see the resolution.